Hello, everyone. Welcome to the AutoRABIT webinar about what CISOs don't know about Salesforce data security. We're going to give it a minute to 2 minutes to let everyone join for the webinar, and then we'll be kicking everything off. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you for coming to our webinar today. And we are going to have the discussion with the wider team that is here about what CISOs don't know about Salesforce data security. And before we get started, so all attendee mics are muted. I'm going to lay out some ground rules here. The session will be recorded and will be shared on the AutoRABIT website. You'll get a follow-up email as well with the information. As you have questions, please share them in the Q&A and we'll answer it at the end. And then as a little gift after the session, we'll be sending you an email with some interesting links to follow up. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to the AutoRABIT team and somebody will be there to help answer your questions and we can set up some next steps for you. So getting started with our webinar. So my name is Veroljub Mihailovic and I am a Senior Director of Product Marketing and I've been in the cybersecurity realm for close to 10 years. And we are very excited to be having a discussion with what CISOs don't know about Salesforce data security. We're going to have three major agenda topics today. One thing is what is the Salesforce architecture question? What are the top challenges that you are facing with your Salesforce data? And some interesting steps that you can take today with AutoRABIT and help resolve some of these challenges that you might be facing. The number one thing where I'd like to get this webinar started is talking about a CISO. And often enough, finding out a little bit about the security or the state of security in the Salesforce ecosystem, tech leaders are often shocked to find this out. And what that is very specific, is that even though in every SaaS provider's terms and conditions, clients are responsible for their own data. Often enough, even CISOs or experienced technology leaders assume that as soon as you hear the word SaaS, it's not my responsibility. And often this comes to a head during the most of unfortunate situations when there has been a compromise either in the data, whether it's on purpose, inadvertent, or some nefarious actor. And this leads to a lot of complications and headaches when this happens. The little secret that we have is through 2025, 99.99% of cloud security failures will be the customer's fault. And you might be asking, why is that? The cloud SaaS provider is responsible for security of the cloud. And this means that they're responsible for the application security, network controls, infrastructure of the application itself. However, as soon as you take control and change your configurations and start doing some customization, you are responsible for the security in the cloud. So all data, any devices, accounts, governance, both access management and security posture, those are within the realm of your responsibilities. And this leads to some interesting questions. So why is this? Salesforce was not built for the security architecture of 2025. It was built to be business-led, being able to rapidly iterate, launch different applications, launch different features and business features that the business will value quickly in a way that you can prototype and have a small compact team to be able to deliver this. And it was really designed around executing a minimal viable product that can deliver value to the end customer and really push innovation along quickly. based off of the origins with a shared database and feature-rich access controls, it was really designed to be a customer relation management software for sales management, and not really for the 2025 enterprise architecture required. So based off of this, what is happening is there is a traditional SaaS or traditional shared security model where the idea here is as you go from on-premise to the infrastructure as a service and down to software as a service, that the customer predominantly has less and less responsibility. But there is a challenge, especially around low code platforms like Salesforce, where they start to bleed in with a lot of different concepts. And the traditional shared security model starts to break down. And what is happening is based off of the customizations, the fact that Salesforce has evolved towards being a low code platform where not only are you doing customer relationship management, but you're doing custom application development. There you have communities, you have portals, you're starting to use Marketing Cloud and different solutions on top of the customer relationship piece that then you can have a lot of developers, a lot of endpoints, and different security risks that are starting to happen. When reevaluating the traditional shared security responsibility model, we find ourselves being exposed to different types of risks that are commonly found in developer ecosystems. So, the number one thing is the risk from cyber threats. So, this involves cybersecurity, this involves unintended breaches, ransomware. So, there is a potential for unauthorized access, deletion, theft, or modification of data or metadata, whether or not that comes from internal or external sources. The second risk that we have to factor in is the human or unintended risk. So the risk of accidental or intentional, especially from insider threats, actions that lead to the overriding deletion or user errors of your data. With with Salesforce's ability to act as a third as a application development platform, developers on on the Salesforce ecosystem have the ability to connect to third-party applications. Third parties comes with risks. Quite often, when we're hearing about cybersecurity breaches that are happening in the ecosystem, it's not the company typically that gets hacked, it's the third party that is associated that's doing something, whether it's related to marketing, something related to AI, that doesn't have the same security protections, but ends up exposing data from the original company that is hacked. And with Salesforce, you have a myriad of APIs, webhooks, open portals to the internet, and more folks are using tools such as AI to connect and create multipliers in terms of their capabilities of innovation that they're doing. So you have this ecosystem that is now ripe for inadvertently expanding the attack surface in which an attacker, a nefarious attacker, can come into your internal network or your internal low code ecosystem. Operational risks. So when you are going through development innovation lifecycle, there are various risks that are happening with permissioning, having different user profiles, including moving code and different innovation features between different production environments. There are a lot of inherent operational risks that might be happening associated with that. And then lastly, the environmental risks happening in terms of, if things go down, accidentally moving things or overwriting things environmentally, not having the right uptime compared to what exactly you need for your applications. There are a proliferation of security risks that now have come from a traditional SaaS shared responsibility model. Now that it's being used as a development platform, you are exposing yourself to a whole bunch of risk and makes us need to reevaluate what the traditional shared security model is. And this leads us to really thinking deeply about what are the top challenges facing your Salesforce data. And we're going to go in here in talking a little bit about low code vulnerabilities. And it's good to talk about this, that it's not necessarily exclusively a Salesforce only problem. The challenge lies with making a platform that is accessible both for citizen developers, professional developers, and doing a lot of challenging and innovative work while still enabling low code or no code abilities. You have to balance the architecture between the enterprise grade and the ability and functionality of rapidly prototyping, making minimal valuable products, and moving fast. So some of the things that folks are exposed to in your data is potentially at risk is the decentralized Salesforce platform and its applications. So in this case, a potential developer lacking security expertise can configure a Salesforce app for local operational needs. Unaware of potential vulnerabilities, the developer can inadvertently expose sensitive customer data, such as PII, due to a misconfiguration of permissions. The second thing that we have to deal with in low code is complex and customizable configuration. Um, so a quick example for that is really quickly, if you're using Marketing Cloud, for example, the marketing team can customize their Salesforce app extensively. However, without prior knowledge of the security posture of the overall organization, they can change the security and the compliance requirements, creating a potential gap in the data protection and the requirements from your organization, potentially jeopardizing some of the compliance requirements that you might have if you are in a federated or regulated industry. Uh, Another challenge with low code is dynamic environments and user access. And we all know the proliferation of identities, how many different types of profiles that are happening, and really being able to manage extensively the movers, levers, joiners of all of the environments is very difficult for us to get a good grasp on. So, for example, if especially around Salesforce, you have teams moving in and out of the different projects, organizations, and applications. If a contractor, for example, comes in and is provisioned specific types of access, they do their work. Over time, this access might not be properly revoked, and they will still have access to these particular environments even after they've left and completed their work with the organization. Um, then for the fourth one is really talking about shadow IT. And this is especially important in this day and age with all of the AI helpers and generative AI, folks that are doing all of this coding and getting AI helpers to improve quite a bit of some of the legacy legwork that has been done. But it is more often than ever, you have the capability of installing third-party integrations to improve something like project management. However, configuring the integration is really difficult to make sure that you have the right permissions, including whether or not you have access to sensitive data. Often these types of integrations can be done in a way without the knowledge of IT or IT security, which can lead to improper exposure, which allows you to face a potential breach or information of the data that you have stored within Salesforce. Lastly, we're going to come to the last three major things and talking about data classification challenge. Um, Salesforce, especially for really large enterprises, you touch many teams, different folks use Salesforce for different things, and being able to classify data is absolutely critical. And often this is a manual exercise because without having data classification, you cannot quantify the risks within your databases and within the different swim lanes that you might potentially have, forcing enterprises to have to spend lots of time and effort to classify data manually and then understand, hey, where do I need to actually enact some of the policies related to HIPAA, related to PII, PCI, or GDPR? What do I have to classify within my information set as the right to be forgotten? Where do I need to have this higher level of attention, or do I need to have it overall? Going into the threat for ransomware, cyber threats, and prevention, it's the same exposure as everywhere else. Phishing attacks targeting Salesforce users. There's been countless articles published about folks getting access to admin profiles. And the biggest challenge here is if you were to ask a chief revenue officer that's using Salesforce exclusively, those are the keys to your kingdom, where you can potentially have unauthorized access and the ability to extract or exfiltrate data, or lie dormant and eventually start spreading throughout the ecosystem and leading to a potential incident where data is encrypted or lost. Making sure that you have both a robust technology set of managing your attack surface is critical, and also having the ability to back up and restore the data in case of an issue. This is really key. Recently, with Creps on security, the risk has been identified as amplified for folks that are using Salesforce as an application to interact as a storefront or a portal, or for user experiences where end users may enter sensitive personal information. And then finally, low code has quite a bit of interactions with data privacy regulation and compliance. Quite often, where low code or Salesforce solutions are used are in industries that face strict data privacy regulations and face audits. So having a reliable auditing system and the ability to track your data, as well as having reliable archival and backup systems, can become a challenge, especially when there is innovation and continuous changes happening on the Salesforce or the low code platform. So this is the low code vulnerabilities, which lead us into talking about the next step, which is thinking about the day-to-day Salesforce risks with daily enterprise activities. In this case, with the Salesforce administration, and I know a lot of us have to deal with this, is what are the key things that can potentially cause issues, not only structurally from a low code perspective, but day-to-day activities within the enterprise that can cause issues that you might have to deal with and follow up on a based off of the course of regular work. The number one is based off of the metadata, naming conventions, and let's face it, facts that perhaps you've had Salesforce for 10 to 12 years now. There is a lot of technical debt, and based off of this, regular functions can can lead to overwrites, and that's the most often number one cited issue that is related to Salesforce enterprise activities. So, for example, an admin decides to modify critical pick list field without mapping existing data. And what ends up happening is the result is not only the loss of previous data, but disruptions to territory or assignment rules. And this requires quite a bit of manual work to attempt to fix the issue. Our challenges lie in the fact that the Salesforce ecosystem provides a data backup with manual fields in CSVs every 7 days, which might not be able to pick up these types of changes that have been done, last hour or last day, leading to manual activity of trying to piece everything together over the course of over the course of the next couple months. Migrating large data sets involves risks, especially major data migrations. If there is a interruption in the transition without a comprehensive backup strategy, access to data, as I mentioned, is a weekly interval. Being able to revert back depending on your use cases and the nature of the industry is really critical for a smooth and timely migration. Uh, Data imports can potentially overwrite the wrong fields. So, for example, importing data, a user can mistakenly overwrite essential fields, resulting in irreversible data loss. Having the right data backup at the right granularity is absolutely critical. And then finally, as mentioned previously, protecting your investments in Salesforce requires a proactive approach to ensure continuous access to critical data. Based off of the data needs, 7 days backup, it might be right, might be wrong for you, but being able to understand the impact to the business, especially if you have integrated customer experiences with access to account information or PII, makes this a critical thing that needs to be evaluated. So talking to all these risks, you might be asking, what steps can you take today? With AutoRABIT, to mitigate some of these risks, we have a secure Salesforce Summit that we're offering to customers, where we do a tactical workshop of assessing your current security posture, and we give immediate action items that can be implemented for improvement and future systemic evaluations of how you can implement the right things for your organization to solve for the issues that have been identified. Again, what you get out of this is a tailored recommendation for enhancing your data protection and compliance for security. You have a cyber expert to help you standardize and fortify your Salesforce ecosystem, and ultimately proactive identification and mitigation of security vulnerabilities for both your developers and your security teams. Right now, we have a organizational scanner that you can get started for free today. We will be sending a email out where we can start discussing and identify some of the challenges that you might be experiencing. And we have the ability to tell you where within your organization you have to focus in on, where there might be gaps in terms of awareness in the organization, or B, have a understanding of, but really what is the level of criticality within your organization depending on your compliance standards. And we are putting together this package that you can get this free code scan today and get the requirements really quickly out of it. Again, a lot of folks ask us in terms of the permissions required for production. You can really do something that's a sandbox or a custom Salesforce domain and get an immediate understanding of what is your security posture after doing the quick scan. And then what is AutoRABIT doing to challenge the security risks that are available, that are within the low-code ecosystem? So with AutoRABIT, we have a low-code operating model where what we're finding is commonly the low-code enterprise challenges revolve around productivity and security. Whereas you're looking to lower platform total cost of ownership, you have limited accuracy in terms of your CI/CD and being able to use best of breed practices, and there are high change failure rates around being able to deliver innovation within both accurately and at highest quality, and then having the governance and all, as well as unmanaged code security. So with that, we have the unified AutoRABIT platform that with one pane of glass, we help protect data. We have the capability of providing best of breed CI/CD version control, environmental management and compliance, as well as focusing on your security orchestration with code scan and security posture management. So we're coming to the end of our webinar. So if you have any questions, we're going to be answering them now. Feel free to type them in. And we have a few questions that I've already lined up, and we're going to start answering them. So the first question that we have is very interesting, is do we need to scan our code? Doesn't the Salesforce platform take care of any dodgy code? So very good question. So the reason why a CSAT different solution exists is the fact that the code you can put in can have unintended vulnerabilities, issues in terms of quality, or expose you to third-party threats that you might not be aware of. With what Salesforce does, or just generally any programming languages, you can introduce these vulnerabilities unintentionally. And what we have with our code scan solution is the ability to build in rules and update them with best practices and remove any known vulnerabilities and flag it. Uh, we understand the developers, and for developers, the name of the game is speed, quality, and innovation with a focus on delivery. And what we do is we can operationally flag how important this issue is, whether it's mission critical, nice to have, and then we have something called code smells that are best practices in terms of code hygiene. So ultimately, what we're doing here is we're trying to improve the success rate of being able to check your code in and launch it to production with no challenges the first time through, and not leave tech debt for you to have to handle it in the future. And ultimately helping teams focus on delivering innovation as opposed to how much tech debt that they're working on day in and day out. The next question that we have is, how do low-code security challenges compare to those of traditional programming? Which is a fantastic question. Biggest challenge with low code or some Salesforce is the fact that you have so many hands in the pot, and many different people are trying to do different things across the organization and push across innovation. And the biggest challenge is creating version control and a framework where you can do the release process repeatedly. And the biggest challenge is based off the varying skill sets and the different folks that are working on different components, having a lot of outsourced work potentially, and then different business value drivers and owners makes it a particular challenge, especially around with Salesforce. So Salesforce is built around the ability to do low code, no code with extensive customization on top. Quite often you're left with considerable tech debt and you don't have necessarily the perfect architecture that you'd love to have ground up. So typically you need to have customized tooling, scripts, a lot of things that are worked together to get some repeatability. Ultimately, what ends up happening is that you have to have a dedicated tool, dedicated team maintaining your customized tooling to allow you to deliver innovation. Where folks like AutoRABIT come in is we take the burden off of the customization tooling and allow you to focus in on delivering innovation and the things that customers care about, as opposed to maintaining expensive point product tooling for your existing architecture. A second question that we have here, third question, is why do I need to care that Salesforce and SaaS apps aren't responsible for the data in the cloud? So we've been seeing more and more breaches. Forrester last year released that there was going to be the number one security trend is that there will be a major breach in the low code ecosystem. Prevalent thought is that Salesforce is secure, and Salesforce is secure inherently. Attackers, if there's anybody in my Salesforce ecosystem, I can call Salesforce up and get rid of them. Major issue is if the attacker is in your ecosystem, it's already game over. They probably have access to all your information. Ultimately, there are major fines. Clorox just suffered a major security breach, which caused them $49 million in penal damages and having to deal with the actual security breach. And then we have the impact on the business. They weren't able to deliver products. They weren't able to, their stock price actually fell about 40%. So there are major, major ramifications. And then lastly, the SEC has now mandated if there is a security breach that you have very specific protocols that you have to follow, including that you have to create a announcement publicly facing within the first week of the breach. Two, you have to analyze and provide to the government the risk mitigation and the risk analysis plan that you have done for this type of breach. And then three, fines can be extended to both the company as well as the board of directors associated with cybersecurity, the CEO, and the rest. So it's big impacts, very interesting times, and it is absolutely key for us all to come together and understand what impacts does it have on our Salesforce ecosystems and how do I bring that under control. The next question I have is, do you need to send events from Salesforce to an external team or a managed SOC? Uh, Depending on your security team and posture, there are many connections into different systems that can identify proactively some of the issues that might be happening. Best practice typically has been around integrating some of that information, working closely with the security team. I think that that is a very good place to start in terms of understanding of what the security team is looking for from Salesforce and being able to proactively protect you from any intrusions or things that might be coming around there. So that's a very, very, very good question. One more thing that has come up is okay. Doesn't the ability to quickly deliver updates cover any potential security risks because you can just fix them as they come up? Aha. So the number one thing is as you introduce vulnerabilities, you increase your attack surface, and it's better to be proactive than to introduce known vulnerabilities or increasing your attack surface without actively managing it. So in this case, there was a very good question about a SIEM and a SOC and integrating data streams from Salesforce there. But if you connect to a third party or an API or a webhook, the SIEM or the SOC and the stream of data from Salesforce would not cover that. So it's really important to have good security hygiene, being able to actively monitor and scan your code before checking it in for known vulnerabilities and aligning to your organization's security posture is an absolute must in 2025, especially with the rise in systematic threats from attackers looking to probe for any vulnerabilities that might pop up. Okay, cool. I think we've come to the end of our questions. Again, we will be sending you out an email for the ability to do the quick scan yourself. If you are interested in doing a security summit with AutoRABIT, we have a lot of experience of cyber analysts that can help you out with any questions. So we'll be sending you an email if you are interested or anybody else that you know within your team might be interested, or if you're looking to set up a conversation with us and your security team to maybe get a good grasp and develop some standardization and give you some more context, we would love to have that held with us together. Thank you very much for attending our webinar, and I hope everyone has a good rest of the day. Thank you.